The mahogany door of the corner office gleamed under the afternoon sun, but Madison Pierce barely noticed. At 34, she'd clawed her way to the CEO position of TechVista Industries through ruthless efficiency and an iron will that had earned her the nickname, the Ice Queen, in Silicon Valley circles. She'd fired executives over lunch, dismantled departments before coffee breaks, and built a billion-dollar empire on the principle that sentiment had no place in business. That Tuesday afternoon, her computer screen flickered and died for the third time in an hour. Madison slammed her palm against the desk, her patience evaporating. Her assistant was at a conference, IT was overwhelmed with a system-wide glitch, and she had a presentation for Japanese investors in 45 minutes that could determine the company's entire future in the Asian market. Through her glass walls, she spotted him, an older man pushing a cleaning cart down the hallway, moving with the unhurried pace of someone invisible to the executive world. His gray hair was thinning, his uniform slightly faded, and he hummed something softly to himself as he worked. A wicked thought crossed Madison's mind. She'd heard about this janitor, Miguel, she thought his name was, how he'd worked here for 15 years, always arriving before dawn and leaving after sunset. Some of her executives had mentioned he was oddly knowledgeable about random things, always reading thick books during his breaks. The idea of asking him to fix her computer struck her as absurdly funny, a brief moment of levity in her pressure cooker world. She strode to her door and called out, "Hey, you there. Can you come here for a second?" Miguel looked up, surprise crossing his weathered face. He was in his late 60s, with kind eyes that had seen more of life than most people in this building ever would. "Yes, ma'am. My computer's acting up, and IT's swamped. Think you can take a look?" Madison's tone carried a hint of mockery, expecting him to stumble through an excuse or maybe jiggle some wires uselessly. What she didn't expect was the way his expression shifted, not offended, not confused, but thoughtful. "I can try," he said simply, parking his cart carefully against the wall. Miguel entered her office with the quiet dignity of someone who'd long ago stopped seeking approval. He sat in her chair without asking permission, and Madison felt a flash of irritation at his presumption. But then his fingers moved across her keyboard with unexpected confidence, his eyes scanning the screen with focused intelligence. "When did this start?" he asked, his voice steady and professional. "About an hour ago. Right after I downloaded the quarterly reports." His fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up command prompts and system diagnostics that Madison didn't even know existed. Within minutes, he'd identified a sophisticated piece of malware that had piggybacked on her download, something that could have compromised not just her computer, but potentially the entire company's confidential data. "You have a Trojan horse," Miguel said calmly, his accent softening his words. "Someone's trying to access your files remotely. I can remove it, but you'll need to alert your security team immediately. This isn't random, this is targeted." Madison's smirk had long since vanished, replaced by shock. "How do you?" "Before I came to America, I was a software engineer in Mexico City," Miguel said, his fingers still working methodically. "I worked for a telecommunications company, managed a team of 25 people. But when my wife got cancer, we needed better treatment. We came here on a visa, used all our savings on her care." His voice remained even, factual, without self-pity. "She lived 5 more beautiful years. After she passed, I was too old, my credentials didn't transfer, and my English wasn't good enough for the corporate world anymore. So I found work where I could." The silence in the office was deafening. Madison watched this man, this janitor she'd summoned as a joke, save her company from what could have been a devastating security breach. He worked for another 10 minutes, his expertise evident in every keystroke, building firewalls and alerting the IT department with detailed notes about the breach. "There," he said finally, standing up. "You're secure now. But Miss Pierce, you should know, your company's network has other vulnerabilities. I've noticed them while cleaning the server room at night. I wrote a report once, sent it to IT, but I don't think anyone read it. They probably thought it was spam from the janitor. Madison's throat felt tight. Why didn't you push harder? Demand attention? Miguel smiled, and it transformed his entire face. I learned a long time ago that pride is expensive. I have work that pays my bills, keeps me busy, lets me send money to my grandchildren back home. That's enough. Besides, he glanced around her pristine office, I see many things in this building. I see young programmers working until midnight, skipping meals. I see executives like you forgetting to eat, drowning in stress. I see people chasing success but forgetting to live. My job lets me help in small ways, making sure their workspace is clean, sometimes leaving encouraging notes. Once I fixed a developer's code when I saw it on a screen late at night. He probably thought he solved it himself. His eyes twinkled. That's okay. Kindness doesn't need credit. Something cracked inside Madison's chest. She thought of her own father, a factory worker who died when she was 20, his dreams unrealized, his intelligence wasted on assembly lines because he'd never had the right opportunities. She'd built her empire partly in his memory, but somewhere along the way, she'd forgotten what he'd actually valued: compassion, dignity, treating every person with respect regardless of their station. Miguel, she said, her voice unsteady. What would it take to get you back into software engineering? Here, at Tech Vista? He shook his head gently. Miss Pierce, I'm 68 years old. I'm happy where I am. But your skills, we're wasting them. I'm wasting them. Are you? Miguel picked up a framed photo from her desk, Madison at a ribbon-cutting ceremony, surrounded by dignitaries. You built something remarkable. You provide jobs for 5,000 people. Their families eat because of what you created. That matters. But maybe what you need isn't to change my job, maybe you need to see all your employees the way you're seeing me right now. Really see them. Madison sat down heavily. The Japanese investors, the presentation, the billion-dollar deal, none of it seemed as important as this moment. I've been blind, she whispered. No, Miguel said kindly. You've been busy. There's a difference. But busy becomes blind if we're not careful. Over the following weeks, Madison made changes. She instituted a program where executive leadership spent one day each quarter working in different departments, not observing, but actually doing the work. She discovered that her head of janitorial services had a master's degree in environmental science and created a new sustainability division for him to lead. She found that 3 night shift security guards were former teachers and launched an internal education program. She learned that her parking attendant spoke 6 languages and made him director of international communications. But Miguel remained the janitor. Not because Madison didn't offer him alternatives, she offered several times, but because he'd found his purpose. He'd learned what so few people ever discover, that meaning isn't found in titles or salaries, but in how you show up for others each day. 6 months later, when Tech Vista won a humanitarian award for its revolutionary employee development program, Madison insisted Miguel join her on stage. As they stood in the spotlight, she told the story, not as a joke anymore, but as a testament to the extraordinary people we overlook every day. Miguel didn't fix just my computer that afternoon, Madison told the audience, her voice thick with emotion. He fixed my perspective. He reminded me that genius wears many disguises, that dignity isn't determined by a job description, and that the measure of our humanity isn't what we achieve, but how we treat those who can do nothing for us in return. Miguel stood beside her, humble as always, and when the applause finally faded, he leaned over and whispered, "You know what you really learned, Miss Pierce? That we're all janitors in our own way, cleaning up messes, fixing what's broken, making things better for the next person. The only question is whether we do it with kindness." And for the first time in years, Madison Pierce cried in public, understanding that true wealth had nothing to do with billions in the bank, and everything to do with the richness of spirit in people we'd been taught to overlook.